What's happening, fishing friends? Today we've got a baitcaster review. So listen, if you're looking for a great all-around reel, one that especially excels with lighter lures, fits really well in the hand, and doesn't break the bank, the new SLX MGL 70 may be for you. So enough yapping, let's take a closer look. Now, as with all of my gear reviews, we'll quickly go over the specifications of this reel, discuss what I think the pros and cons of this reel are, and finally we'll look at how this reel performed on the water. So, looking up close at this, the new SLX 70. Now, I think they didn't do the whole A series. So like this, for example, this is the new just regular SLX A. I think they went away with that because this would have been, this is the old one, the Shimano SLX MGL 70A. I think they just decided to go, hey, this is the new one, let's just go SLX 70, right? So speaking of the 70, it's referring to this, the spool size. This is the new MGL 3 little 70 size spool, and I will say that this thing is a caster. The old one had the MGL 2 spool. This MGL 3, they say it's supposed to be their lightest. What's it weigh? Per the scale, 13.7. Now I take that with a grain of salt because I really like to get these out on the water and test them, and you'll definitely see some of that later. But I can say that just casting this around, throwing this, it feels a lot less need to really power into it and just kind of whip your arm out there and let this do the work. They did also add the silent tune into this, which you see this little black thing here. It's just a little rubber gasket, and it's supposed to help, side to side wobble. When this is in there spinning, as this wobbles, moves around, you're losing that rotation. So it's supposed to help reduce that, make it a little bit quieter. And as far as castability, I think it is really good. Take the old one apart here, you can see the difference. It does say MGL on the old one. I don't know why they didn't do that, but anyway, look at it here. You can see it does not have the rubber gasket on there. Before we put this back in, it does have the brakes, the SVS Infinity braking system. So as you put this back in, and yes, it does have the side plate that stays attached on that little wing there. As you put this back in, that's how you adjust the brakes. So when these are able to move like this, can you see that? When they can move freely, they're on. And when you push them in and click them like that, when they're locked in place, they are off. So on this one, I've got 3 on. Just has a little open and close button there. Close it up and you can see the SVS Infinity brakes have that external dial there. So what that does is it moves this little brass race. If I can show you that little brass piece there, it moves it closer and farther to these little centrifugal brakes. This is purely centrifugal, so there's no magnets or anything like that in here. It either moves that brass ring closer or farther away from these, which gives you more or less braking power. It does have the Hagane metal body. It doesn't say the CI4, so I'm assuming these are just the regular graphite side plates on here. Comes in under 7 ounces, 6.9 ounces total, which I think is pretty respectable for any baitcaster these days. Now, as for the gear ratio, this does come in right and left hand. It only comes in 2 gear ratios, 7.2 to 1 and 8.2 to 1. You're thinking, Debo, what the heck are you talking about? That says 6.3. This is one of the early ones from Japan I got my hands on. The one I've actually been using and testing, you can see that is a 7.2 speed. So 7.2 and 8.2 if you're getting them here in the States. They only have the 2 options, which is kind of a con. If you want to get some of these other ones, you have to look over at Japan. It's a 4+1 bearing system. We know with Shimano, they don't care about numbers on it. It's all about how good they are and where they're placed. And this one does absolutely fine with just 4 bearings and 1 anti-reverse roller bearing. They did update the drag on this one. This has 12 pounds of drag. It's the cross carbon drag, so more than enough for what I've been using it for, more the smaller things. Kind of finesse stuff with that lighter spool. It really does well with that, 10, 12 pound line. That's kind of what I've stuck to on this. Oh yeah, and up close here, I forgot to let you know, your drag star does click, which doesn't really matter to me. Your spool tension though, no clicky on that, but it does look really nice from this angle. A little blue accent, ooh. So enough with the close-up stuff. Let's go over some of the pros and cons. All right, so let's start with the pros of this reel. For me, the number one thing when I picked this up is fit in hand. It's one of those reels. I thought somebody said that this one was actually supposed to be a smaller frame. Looked like the exact same size as the others in the SLX lineup, which is a 150 size. But it's the spool that's smaller, the 70 size. Regardless, in hand, this reel feels really, really nice. On a rod, you're going to see this combo to work soon. This is the X Pride with that MGL on it, but in hand, man, it feels so good. It just locks in. Obviously that has to do with the rod too, but for this setup and this type of reel fits really well. My finger fits right under this piece. There's some of these where they're up a little bit too high or sometimes they're down a little low. This one feels completely fine. My finger sits there if I'm using a jig or anything. Fit in hand is really, really good. So that also translates over to fishing it all day. You know, I have no trouble throwing this all day. Even if a combo, I don't care if you give me a $1,000 combo. If it's not comfortable in hand, if it doesn't really have that good lock-in feeling, I'm not going to want to fish it all day. So fishing this reel all day is no problem at all. Now, is that this reel is an awesome caster. You know, looking at footage of this out on the water, you can sling a bait. So I had the little Fritz Side Junior. So this is the smallest little Fritz Side there. You can see it's the little tiny Fritz Side Junior. I was throwing that around in a video coming up. No troubles on this. So I had the external dial set to 4 there, and inside I think I have 3 on. Yeah, 3 of the internal brakes are turned on there. And yes, I do have 2 of these. I like this one so much I picked up another one. So I've got one that's ready to go. That's the one you saw close up. And then this one, which is the one that I've been using. So castability, fit in hand, this thing locks in all day, no problem. And with that castability, it's kind of hard to explain. Like we said, it's got the updated MGL 3 spool, less startup inertia, and that's something that I've noticed. You know, I've thrown cranks on it, I've thrown underspins, I threw around a little finesse Texas rig, and the biggest thing is when I'm just like, you know, flipping a normal cast out there, it takes a lot less effort. That's the one thing about these, you know, the MGL spools, any of them that have it, being able to cast lighter lures, it's just so much easier. You know, you need to let the reel do its own thing more instead of really trying to put power behind it and send it out as hard as you can. It's like just a normal cast and kind of let the reel let the line off for you, if that makes sense. So for anything, if you want to, you know, put a larger topwater on, you could put some 10, 12 pound mono on here and be able to absolutely send a lure, you know, get it close to down to the back end. Overall, it's a quiet caster. I'm sure the silent tune helps with that, those little rubber deals I showed you on the spool. But yeah, overall castability really, really good, fits well in hand. Those are the biggest things I noticed. Now, when we get over to the cons, I'm going to stay on brakes because I still think there are better braking systems out there, especially for somebody that's just beginning. Even with me, I'm very comfortable with the Baitcaster. I've got a bunch of them, as you can see back there. But the SVS brakes, they're just purely centrifugal brakes. When you start to get into wind and wind conditions change, I do have to mess with this just a little bit. So for a beginner, I will just kind of warn you that, you know, the pure centrifugal brakes on just the regular SLX, and like this, the MGL 70, can be sometimes a little touchy. I personally think the Daiwa brakes are the best on the market as far as casting into the wind, you know, kind of set it and forget it type deal. I think they are better there. But with that said, once you get this dialed in, it is a really, really good caster. So that's just something to keep in mind that, you know, if there's wind or if you are switching lure weights, I do find myself tinkering with this a little bit more. Now, some people will also bring up that any reel you have to get into, some people hate that. You do have to open this, but this is attached. That's my biggest gripe is I don't really care if I have to get inside to adjust the brakes. I want to make sure that's attached to it on some sort of mechanism, because if it's not, good chance I'm going to drop it out on the water and lose it. Ask anybody that's had those where you take it off. People have probably lost them. I've dropped them. It's gone right to the edge of the water bank fishing. Luckily, I've never lost one in there yet, but easy potential to do that. Now, speaking of kind of that castability, it kind of goes with the line capacity. So a lower line capacity on this 70 size spool. For most applications, honestly, it's going to be okay. I think for what, 12 pound, it's 85 yards. So almost a full football field. Most of the time I'm not going to be noticing that difference, you know, if you're fishing 10-pound line, something like that, or if I'm just, you know, short casting, if I'm, you know, using this as a Texas rig, flipping around a little jig and stuff, anything close, it's not going to matter, even if you put 17-pound floor on. Where you might get in trouble is if you go with a lot heavier line, like if you're like, oh, hey, I really like this, I'm going to use it as a swim bait reel with 20-pound big game, or I'm going to use this as a frog reel, 65-pound braid. Larger lines like that are going to eat up a lot more of the spool. Dizzle actually has one. I was throwing it around and spooled his frog reel. So anytime if you might have a backlash and have to take off line, you know, that can impact it too. Most of the time it's not going to matter. I do just like to bring that up. The less line you have on there, the less weight. So that does help in being able to cast lighter lures. But if you're going up to heavier stuff or really big line, you might notice that issue. It does also only have the 2 gear ratios, so that's kind of a con, because if you want to use like one of these, you really like it, like this, well, crankbait, you're like, hey, this casts really nice, I'm going to use this for some deeper diving cranks. 7-speed as low as you can go, so there's no 6 or 5 speeds, anything like that. It's just the 2, and then the final thing, which y'all know I'm kind of picky when it comes to the knobs. This has the little tiny baby knobs. It doesn't have the nicer ones like this guy right here. This is just the regular SLX, the $99 reel. Look at that. And that's got the good power grips, you know, the contoured ones, the same ones that come on the Corrado. For some reason, on the MGL, they put these little sissy handles. I don't like them. I don't like tiny handles. Not only the knob, but the handle itself. It's got a smaller actual handle and smaller knob. So It is more for finesse stuff. I personally just don't like that. That was my only thing. I might want to upgrade to a larger handle, but probably not going to mess with it on this. It does fine for cast and retrieve stuff. Usually, I like a larger handle and knobs on. I'm setting the hook hard. So for this, honestly, you know, I've worked through it. I've survived, right? Big troubles. But I personally don't like it. Just a you know, personal preference deal. So getting this reel out on the water, as I'm showing you some footage here, what are some things that I noticed? Well, as you can see in casting here, casting this reel with lighter lures is, I don't want to say effortless because it sounds cheesy, but it's got this weird feel where you can just kind of whip it out there and it just kind of does its own thing, kind of lets off the line and the lure goes. So anything for like smaller cranks, you know, jerk baits can kind of be tough. They can kind of topple in the air. Smaller topwaters, finesse underspins. Those are the types of things I've used this for, even a finesse Texas rig. Anything like that, this reel is really going to excel. I've really liked it for kind of those finessier type things. No, it's not a BFS reel. I haven't tried it for that. I don't even consider it, you know, in that category. For me, it's just, you know, the smaller stuff down to maybe 3/16. But it does really, really well with that, especially if you throw on like some 10 or 12 pound line. The number 2 big thing is distance casting. So I put a 1/2 ounce lipless on here, and I thought I was going to be able to cast this all the way down to the 100-yard line capacity. I mean, you can sling a lure. So if you want to put a lipless on here, you know, some 10-pound line, run this around some grass lines and stuff, man, fishing flats, anything like that where you really want to bomb a cast out there, this thing was great. Same thing for topwater. So if you're throwing like a Chopo out on the edges of stuff, or a big, you know, bigger walking bait like a KVD Sexy Dog, something like that, you can absolutely launch one of those lures on here. So that's the second big thing that I noticed and really liked. Number 3 is it's just a great all-around reel. So people often ask me, hey, I've got this much, what should I buy? So for example, let's say you're looking at either the SLX for $99 or the SLX 70 for $50 more. Hands down, all day, I'm going SLX 70. This is my favorite reel in the SLX lineup. I will take this over the SLX DC. I like it that much. You can get it dialed in. You can really sling a lure. Like I said, the only thing is if you need a ton of line capacity and stuff, yeah, maybe not. But for everything that I've done, you know, even putting 15 pound on here and throwing around a Texas rig or, you know, a spinner bait, chatterbait, anything like that, no issue. I have really, really liked it for all those. So if you're just looking for, you know, not something on either end of the spectrum, you're like, oh, I want to throw 1/8 ounce lures. Well, get a BFS reel or use your spinning reel. Or, oh, I want to throw a you know, 2 ounce swim bait. Yeah, there's other reels that are going to be better for that. But for all around, I have really, really liked it. Fishing it through the day, number 4, I do not like the handles. Like I said, I've survived, it's okay, but I do feel myself kind of, I don't know, it feels like a kiddie toy sometimes. I just really, really hate the small handles. I know that's a personal thing. It doesn't affect the performance per se, but I don't know. I don't love that. And that's one thing that I notice every time I would go to grab the handles, especially after fishing it right next to the new Revo series from Abu. Larger handle knobs, probably my favorite handles on the market now that come stock. I would say for the price, this is one of the best reels for the money. At $150, you get a lot in there. A good braking and casting system. Like I said, sometimes in the wind or switching baits, you might notice that you have to tinker with it a little bit. Like I said, my favorite SLX reel in the lineup, hands down, I will take this over all the other ones. It does everything well. Even some of my smaller stuff, it does way better than the others. So great bang for the buck. They've dropped that MGL 3 spool, which is the same one, might I say, in the Corrado M, which is a $200 reel. You get the same one in an SLX reel at $150. So a lot of the things from the higher priced reels are trickling down, and that's why I think this is a really good buy for the money. So fishing friends, do me a favor, comment below, what is one reel that you think it is one of the best bangs for the buck out there? I know it sounds cliche because you hear it all the time, but listen, I have no affiliation with these guys. It's just a really solid reel. You know, everybody knows Shimano makes good reels, and the SLX lineup is one of the most popular out there for a reason. This reel has done everything I've wanted it to. It looks good. I like the updates on this one, less of the kind of annoying blue. It's this kind of silverish black. But comment below and let me know what you think one of the best reels out there for the money is. I think this is really high up there. It's a really good one. So comment below, let me know. Also let me know what you think of this reel if you have it and the rest of the SLX lineup, because they're a pretty darn solid pick. Now today's subscribed fishing friend is Victor Simonson. He just watched my popper video and said the popper was #1 for me this year as well. Victor, I appreciate you always watching, always commenting, and everybody else who continues to support my channel. I appreciate the heck out of y'all because I'm just a dude sitting in his basement who loves fishing stuff. So that's it for me. Got to finish editing. Love y'all. Thanks, and until next time.